Okay, welcome back. We're doing Ghostbusters on my HDMI NES Kevtris. This is a good idea, but very poorly executed. This game ported to I don't know how many platforms. Obviously, the Commodore 64, the Sega Master System, which in my opinion is the superior version. As a kid, I had the Apple IIc Plus version on a copied 5-inch floppy disk, and it was very similar to the Sega Master System. Maybe not as polished, but you had more options for items to buy. You got to choose what kind of car you wanted. One thing that's always puzzled me about this game, though, is how on earth are you supposed to make enough money to buy some of that equipment? Like on the NES version, like the sound generator is $100,000. I've has anyone? There must have been some kind of um, code, maybe a Game Genie code or some other kind of code that would give you enough money at the start of the game to buy like all the best equipment. But I thought that part was true across all platforms, the not just the NES. Like has anyone actually bought the sound generator? Like how on earth do you make enough money to buy it? You just don't make money fast enough in this game. But other common criticisms, the driving section on the NES version is the worst. Um, it's long. The ghost vacuum is much harder to use. You have fewer opportunities to catch the ghosts on the road using the ghost vacuum. I remember it being much easier to do that um, on the Apple IIc version, and it certainly looks a lot easier to do on the. It looks like you have more opportunities, and it's easier to do on the Sega Master System, despite the fact that those are shorter driving sections. The driving sections in the NES version seem to go on way too long, and they're just too much of the game. And ultimately, this is a game about running the Ghostbusters as a business, which is very much in the spirit of the film. The film, a lot of people forget, but the film was about running a business. That's what it's a comedy about, guys who run kind of a ludicrous business, and for some reason it takes off. There's even that great line from Bill Murray where he says to Dan Aykroyd, trying to convince him that they need to go into business after they lose their jobs at the university. He says the franchise rights alone will make us rich. All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in. First things first, got to go to the ghost shop. And we got to buy our gear, and it's pretty obvious what we need. We need a beam, we need traps, and I think that's all we're going to be able to afford. Oh, and of course I drove right by the gas. That's one of my biggest complaints about this game is, the driving sections are longer, but it would be nice if they gave you more opportunities. You might get one shot at a barrel of gas on the road. All right, we do the beam. Yeah, has anyone actually bought the sound generator? And we're going to buy the super trap because I don't feel like driving to the headquarters all the time to empty traps. And when we have a little bit more money, we'll buy the... we're probably going to have to pass on the vacuum just because it's... For whatever reason, it is much more difficult in this game. I feel like you might get one or two shots at a ghost on the road, and unless you are pixel perfect, you're not going to catch him. I remember in the Apple IIc Plus version, and also on the Sega Master System version, if you're close enough, they get sucked into it. It's a great passive way to make money, but for whatever reason on the NES version, it just doesn't. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, I don't know. And we're just waiting for a building to light up. Now, as a kid, I had Ghostbusters 2 on my NES, and I actually liked it quite a bit. A much better game, much more action-based instead of running a business, despite the fact that Ghostbusters 2 wasn't really all that action-packed either. It was about, I guess you could say it was about reviving a business. Kind of hard to say what Ghostbusters 2 was. It was about making money because it was like a big summer blockbuster. It did make a lot of money despite the fact that critics and even the persons involved were dissatisfied with how it came out. But the game was great. I liked the game. It is one of those perfectly mediocre games. It's not terribly difficult. Ugh, took too long. I wish you had a clock to show you how much time you had to get the ghosts. Now I walk away with nothing. That's my fault. The smart move is to trap them while you can. You know, when you have a couple ghosts in your beams, just go ahead and trap them so you make sure you get something. And of course I have Ghostbusters on the Xbox 360. I don't think I'll be uploading footage of it just because it uses the music as well as the voice acting of, I'm sure it's got to be copyright. I'm sure Columbia TriStar Pictures will strike it down in a heartbeat. So, no point. I don't feel like Columbia TriStar Pictures or Sony Music or whoever owns the rights putting a block on my video, so forget it. I don't know for sure, but I think the driving sections might be longer if you are moving the cursor all around the screen unnecessarily, which is why I'm keeping it in one spot until I have a destination. I have not seen any of the Ghostbusters, Afterlife films. Didn't see the 2016 film. Basically, I haven't seen anything after Ghostbusters 2, with the exception of the Real Ghostbusters cartoon. As a kid, of course, it's so amazing that we forget that the Real Ghostbusters cartoon was incredibly popular. There was the Kenner action figures. It was popular for like a season or two. And then Ninja Turtles came and just blew it out of the water. Completely. Oh, I missed one. There we go. But Ninja Turtles, just crushed it. And I do have the Real Ghostbusters cartoon, that first season, on DVD. And I do recall there's a lot of interviews with like producers. Ran out of gas. Whoops. Producers, writers, persons involved. Very short interviews. And they say that after the first season, which everyone seemed to universally love, there was a consulting firm, Q3 or whatever. I think they were called Q2 or Q3. But an outside consulting firm was brought on to, offer their ideas to the show. Not sure who insisted they be brought on, and I never understood why. Businesses only seem to bring on board outside consulting firms if there's a serious problem. When Darden Restaurants realized that Olive Garden was losing a lot of money, the outside consulting firm Starboard was brought on to try and figure out like ways that they could cut costs or save money, turn the ship around. Like that's when you bring on board consulting firms, not when you just launch something that's very successful and that people seem to love. But the ideas that Q3 brought to the table were not good. You know, they just everything that was great about the show they wanted done away with. Like they meddled with something that people liked and they made it worse. Right, so we'll do the ghost vacuum, ghost food. That's about all we have money for. Anti-ghost suit, you can take a few more hits on the stairs. We don't even have room for anything else. Only 4 spaces, so no ghost alarm. Most disappointingly about that Ghostbusters cartoon DVD set is that it's only the first season. Because there were 6 or 7 seasons, I think, not including Extreme Ghostbusters. And they didn't sell the other seasons individually. You could either buy the first season individually in that really nice Time Warner tin box, very colorful, or you could buy the whole set. I think it came in like a Firehouse box set, and it's very expensive. I think it's even more expensive now that it's been like several years. It wasn't done piecemeal like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles box set where you could buy each season individually. I never understood that. I would have been interested in buying them piecemeal, but whatever. So I just own the one season. Haven't watched it in years. Yeah, I must be doing something wrong with the ghost vacuum. I'll try mashing buttons next time I see a ghost on the road. One of already going to the Zool building. Why not? This is basically where the game ends. Whomever came up with the idea to tap A and B on the stairs. Alright, so what we'll do... Oh. We'll drop our ghost food right there. Oh, and that's game over. It doesn't even matter. But whoever came up with that control scheme for going up and down the stairs, just absolutely atrocious. That's Ghostbusters. You know, you get to the Zool building and you die. It needed to be more intuitive using the D-pad to move them around freely. Instead, having to tap A and B, just mind-numbingly stupid. But getting back to just finishing up what I was saying, Phalos, one of the old Doug Walker crew on Channel Awesome, did a very long, very in-depth review of the Real Ghostbusters cartoon. I know James Rolfe did kind of a abbreviated one. Didn't go into depth as he did with the TMNT cartoon, which he did a fantastic job on many, many years ago. That one I will pin in the description. But Phalos did a pretty good, long, in-depth video on all of the entire Real Ghostbusters cartoon. In fact, I'm actually going to see if I can find if anyone posted those interview clips with the writers and producers about bringing on board the consulting firm for the Real Ghostbusters. I'll pin that in the comments as well. That is worth checking out because the original season 1 cartoon, you can watch some of the better episodes. They are available on YouTube, you know, with ads, of course. But then everything after season 1 is much harder to come across. So anyway, that's it. That's all I want to say about this. And Gosh, what an awful game. Great idea, terrible execution. So next time we'll we'll do something as bad but hopefully better.